Every government's worst nightmare isn't war or revolution. It's when ordinary citizens discover this one unstoppable economic truth. When everything falls apart, people don't just sit around waiting for permission to survive. They adapt fast. Economic collapse hits like a sudden storm. One day you're buying groceries with your regular paycheck. The next day your money is worth half what it was yesterday. Banks shut their doors. ATMs run dry. Government officials scramble to implement emergency measures that usually make things worse, not better. The first response from authorities? Ban stuff. Makes sense, right? When toilet paper disappears from shelves, they ban hoarding. When foreign currency becomes more valuable than local money, they ban currency exchanges. When people start panic buying rice and canned goods, they implement strict rationing systems that require standing in line for hours just to get a loaf of bread. But here's where it gets interesting. Legal markets don't just slow down during a crisis, they practically freeze. Importers can't get foreign currency to buy goods from overseas. Shipping companies demand payment in stable currencies that nobody has access to. Manufacturers shut down production lines because they can't source raw materials. The domino effect is brutal and swift. Within weeks, sometimes days, store shelves that once overflowed with products start looking like picked-over garage sales. Pharmacies run out of basic medications first: insulin, blood pressure pills, antibiotics, grocery stores. Next, electronics and luxury items vanish completely. Even basic tools and repair parts become impossible to find through official channels. Well, what do families do when their local currency becomes essentially worthless paper? They hoard anything that might hold value. Cash in foreign denominations gets stuffed under mattresses. Gold jewelry disappears into safety deposit boxes. Smart families stock up on cigarettes, alcohol, and coffee, items that historically become informal currencies when official money fails. The weird part is how quickly ordinary people transform into amateur economists. Your neighbor who barely balanced his checkbook last month suddenly becomes an expert on which items will be most tradable. Teachers start buying extra bottles of cooking oil. Office workers clear out hardware stores of batteries and light bulbs. Everyone's playing the same mental game. What will people desperately need when stores can't provide it? Then there's the psychological shift that happens faster than anyone expects. People who never broke a rule in their lives start thinking creatively about alternatives. Not criminal thinking, survival thinking. When your kid needs medicine and pharmacies are empty, you don't just accept defeat. When your family needs food and grocery stores have bare shelves, you explore options that weren't on your radar before. Traditional supply chains break down completely during these periods. Trucks stop running regular delivery routes. Warehouses get emptied by panicked distributors. International trade agreements become meaningless when countries can't honor payment terms. The entire system that normally moves goods from producers to consumers just stops. And the moment legal markets fail to meet basic human needs, something inevitable starts brewing beneath the surface. People begin whispering about alternative sources, different ways to get things done, unofficial channels that might still work when official ones don't. That's when the real transformation begins. When legal stores empty out and governments crack down, people don't just give up and go hungry, they adapt. Fast. Underground trade networks pop up almost overnight, like mushrooms after rain. Neighbors who barely spoke before suddenly become business partners. Your friendly barber might start selling cigarettes under the counter. The lady who runs the corner cafe, she's probably got medicine stashed in the back room. These aren't hardened criminals, they're ordinary folks trying to survive when the system breaks down. Cash becomes king in this shadow economy. Credit cards? Forget about it. Bank transfers leave paper trails that governments can follow. Physical money, especially foreign currency, turns into pure gold. People stuff dollars, euros, or whatever stable currency they can find into mattresses and cookie jars. The irony is delicious. In our digital age, we go right back to the basics. But here's where things get interesting. When even cash loses its value, humans revert to something even older: bartering. A mechanic fixes your car in exchange for a bag of rice. A doctor treats your kid for a tank of gasoline. It's like stepping into a time machine, except everyone's doing it to dodge government restrictions. Word of mouth becomes the internet of the underground. No Google searches here. You hear about a guy who knows a guy through whispered conversations at bus stops. Your cousin's friend might have connections to someone selling flour at reasonable prices. Trust networks that took years to build suddenly become lifelines. Makes sense, right? When you can't advertise openly, reputation is everything. Criminal organizations smell opportunity like sharks detect blood in water. They've got the infrastructure already. Secret routes, corrupt contacts, experience moving prohibited items. Suddenly, the same networks that smuggled drugs are trafficking bread and baby formula. The skills transfer perfectly, which is both fascinating and terrifying. Small-time entrepreneurs join the party too. College students become cigarette dealers. Retired teachers start selling imported soap. The weird part is how quickly normal people adapt to operating outside the law. Desperation has a way of making rule breakers out of rule followers. Then there's the creativity factor. People develop elaborate systems to avoid detection. They use code words that sound innocent. Fresh tomatoes might mean antibiotics. Meeting at the usual spot could be code for the abandoned warehouse on 5th Street. It's like watching an entire society become secret agents overnight. Physical meetings replace digital transactions. Parks, parking lots, and quiet street corners become the new marketplaces. Handshakes seal deals worth thousands. No contracts, no receipts, no legal protection, just trust and the hope that both sides keep their word. The transformation happens faster than most governments expect. Within weeks, entire communities can be running on underground commerce. What starts as desperate individuals looking for basic necessities quickly evolves into something much more sophisticated. These scattered traders and secret deals are just the beginning, though. Once people realize there's serious money to be made in forbidden goods, the real organization begins. What starts as desperate people making secret deals quickly transforms into something much bigger. Networks begin forming like underground highways, connecting smugglers who move goods across borders, middlemen who store products in hidden warehouses, and local dealers who know every back alley in their neighborhood. These aren't random transactions anymore, they're organized operations with their own rules and hierarchies. But here's where things get dangerous. When there's no government oversight, quality control goes out the window. Fake medicines flood the market, made in someone's basement with who knows what ingredients. Car parts that look genuine but snap under pressure. Baby formula cut with chalk or worse substances. The desperation that creates black markets also creates an environment where anything goes and buyers often can't tell the difference until it's too late. Prices in this shadow economy follow their own twisted logic. A simple aspirin that costs 50 cents legally might sell for $5 on the black market. Designer jeans could jump from $50 to $200. Makes sense, right? High risk means high reward for the sellers, but everyday families get crushed by these inflated costs. The irony is brutal. People turn to black markets because they can't afford legal goods, only to find themselves paying even more for inferior products. Then there's the art of staying invisible. Black market traders develop their own language, using code words that sound innocent to outsiders. Grandmother's recipe might mean smuggled medication. Fresh bread could signal new electronics. They operate from constantly changing locations. Today's deal happens in an abandoned parking garage, tomorrow's in a rural farm shed. The successful ones learn that location is everything, and staying in one place too long is a death sentence for their operation. Well, corruption becomes the grease that keeps these underground gears turning. Police officers who make $30 a week suddenly find themselves offered $300 to look the other way during a shipment. Customs officials discover that their signatures are worth more than their salaries. Border guards realize they can supplement their meager government paychecks by developing selective blindness at crucial moments. The weird part is how quickly this normalized behavior spreads. Once a few officials start taking bribes, the honest ones often feel like fools for refusing easy money. Let's not forget how these relationships build trust in a trustless system. Reputation becomes currency. A smuggler who delivers quality goods on time builds a network of loyal customers who spread the word carefully through whispered recommendations. Break that trust once, sell fake products or tip off authorities, and you're finished. These networks operate on handshakes and personal vouching, creating bonds stronger than any legal contract. The most successful black market organizations start resembling legitimate businesses, complete with supply chains, customer service, and even quality guarantees. They fill the vacuum left by collapsed official systems, becoming the primary source for everything from basic food to luxury items. But success in this underground world attracts attention from both law enforcement and competing criminal groups, setting the stage for conflicts that extend far beyond simple commerce. When black markets take hold, they don't just exist alongside legal businesses, they declare war on them. Picture a legitimate store owner trying to sell batteries at regulated prices while someone down the street offers the same batteries for half the cost. Sure, those batteries might be stolen or fake, but desperate customers don't always care. The legal guy follows tax rules, pays rent, maintains proper licenses. His competitor operates from a backpack. Guess who wins? Legal businesses start hemorrhaging customers. Some adapt by cutting corners themselves. Maybe they stop reporting all their income or start buying from questionable suppliers. Others just close their doors. The irony, government policies meant to protect the economy often end up destroying the very businesses they're supposed to help. Then there's the employment angle. And here's where things get complicated. When factories shut down and offices lay people off, the black market becomes the neighborhood's biggest hiring manager. It doesn't require resumes or background checks, cash payments, no questions asked. A former bank manager might find himself smuggling cigarettes. A teacher could end up selling bootleg medicine. These aren't career changes people planned for, but hunger has a way of adjusting priorities. The numbers tell a wild story. In some countries hit by severe economic crisis, underground markets can represent 20% or even 30% of all economic activity. We're talking about millions of people earning their living in the shadows. Venezuela's black market became so massive that it practically became the real economy while the official one withered away. But here's the kicker. Black markets often make shortages worse, not better. Seems backward, right? Traders hoard goods intentionally, creating artificial scarcity to drive prices through the roof. They'll hide medical supplies in warehouses while hospitals run empty, waiting for desperation to peak. It's supply and demand with a sadistic twist. Criminal organizations love this chaos. They start small, maybe controlling a few street corners or smuggling routes. But as money flows in, they buy better weapons, recruit more people, corrupt more officials. Before long, they're not just selling illegal goods, they're challenging the government's authority entirely. Some end up more powerful than the police trying to stop them. Well, what about everyday people caught in this mess? They learn to navigate a dangerous new world where every purchase becomes a calculated risk. That discounted insulin could save your diabetic child or poison them. Those cheap car parts might work perfectly or cause a deadly accident. The weird part is how quickly people adapt to living with these impossible choices. Corruption spreads like a virus during these times. Police officers who can barely feed their families suddenly have opportunities to make serious money by looking the other way. Government inspectors find their salaries worthless but discover that bribes maintain their purchasing power. Even honest people start bending rules just to survive. Makes sense, right? When the system breaks down, people don't just sit around waiting for it to fix itself, but what happens when these underground networks become so entrenched that they start reshaping society permanently? Well, here's the thing about black markets, they don't just disappear when the crisis ends. Sometimes they stick around like that weird smell in your garage. Why? Because once people lose trust in the official system, getting it back is harder than teaching your grandmother to use TikTok. Take Venezuela, where hyperinflation turned their currency into expensive toilet paper. Citizens started using US dollars for everything from buying coffee to paying rent. The government eventually threw up their hands and said, "Fine, use whatever money works." But here's the kicker. By then, entire neighborhoods were running on underground networks that had nothing to do with banks or official stores. New forms of money pop up in the strangest ways. During World War II, cigarettes became currency in prisoner of war camps. In modern Zimbabwe, people used everything from Coca-Cola bottle caps to cell phone airtime as money. One guy in Argentina told me he kept his savings in packets of instant noodles because at least those held their value better than pesos. Governments face a brutal choice when black markets take over huge chunks of their economy. Keep fighting and waste resources on an unwinnable war, or surrender and change the rules. Most eventually pick option 2. Greece loosened regulations on informal businesses during their debt crisis. Russia allowed more private trading after their economic collapse in the 1990s. Sometimes admitting defeat is actually pretty smart. Then there's the weird silver lining nobody talks about. Black markets can accidentally save economies by keeping trade alive when everything else dies. Those underground smuggling routes, they become legitimate supply chains once laws change. Those neighborhood dealers who knew everyone, they open actual shops. It's like economic CPR, messy and desperate, but it keeps the patient breathing. But let's not forget the permanent scars this leaves behind. People who live through black market periods never fully trust the system again. They stash cash under mattresses, keep extra food stored away, always know a guy who knows a guy, just in case. My neighbor lived through Soviet shortages and still hoards sugar packets from restaurants 40 years later. The psychology changes too. Once you've bought medicine from some sketchy dude in a parking lot because the pharmacies were empty, you realize how fragile normal life really is. Violence becomes a business tool. Scams become daily hazards. Parents teach their kids which streets to avoid and which handshakes mean trouble. Some countries never fully recover from this underground economy mindset. Italy's shadow economy still accounts for roughly 12% of their GDP. Parts of Eastern Europe operate on cash-only businesses that report almost nothing to tax authorities. These aren't crisis responses anymore. They're permanent features. The strangest part? Sometimes black markets become so efficient and trusted that people prefer them over legal alternatives. Faster service, better prices, no paperwork, no questions asked. But whether black markets fade away or become permanent fixtures, one thing remains constant. They reveal just how quickly civilization's rules can crumble when people get desperate enough to ignore them completely.